Join our challenges. The signal path.
Hey guys, welcome to the TSP podcast, and today I got with me is
Ryan Verthein.
What's up, Ryan? How you doing, man?
I'm making it, I'm trying.
All right. So let's get started. All right, so today we got Ryan with me, and Ryan is got a neat little project to show you guys, I guess, on camera as well, but nice, man.
That's one of a few. It's I can talk about what it is and where it came from if you want, but
Okay. Well, let's do some housekeeping real quick, and just kind of how we met. I met you on a lot of the different gear pages. I think you're also in all the different tone guys, like Chasing Tone, Tone Mob, Tone Jerks.
Yeah. It's sort of funny too. I didn't realize I saw the Tone Mob thing happen when it first happened. Like, I think I must have signed up right away. And then I sort of forgot that it existed for a couple of years. And he kept going. I think it was in the beginning when he wasn't real consistent,
Yeah.
And there was like going a couple months before he'd do another one. And I kind of lost sight of it. And then just in the last like 2-3 years, I got back on it. And now I just, that's what I listen to, man.
But yeah, I'm sure you've seen my shenanigans over the last year or so. So that's been kind of a thing. But we kind of run a pretentious free kind of environment and let everybody from the pros to the regular Joes do all the challenges and post content. Not saying anything bad about the other groups or anything like that. It's just a lot of these guys don't feel comfortable in posting, I guess, not up to par quality content, but because a lot of people need to start somewhere and have a beginning on producing or their videos or recordings, or even if they're like a DIY builder, or everybody's kind of got to start somewhere. And that's the reason for TSP is more of a mentorship than it is anything else.
Yeah, which is great. It's not everybody has the friend group and the access to people in this industry. It's funny, you hear podcasters all talk to each other about who they know and who they talk to, and you're like, well,
yeah,
how do I go? I want to be friends with them.
Yeah. Like, I want to be able to talk to Brian Wappler. It's like, hey man, I can't figure out this tone stack in my pedal,
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of the thing. But honestly, there's a lot of, I don't want to say small builders. There's a lot of boutique builders and some even high end. I think even Brian Wappler's in TSP and shares his content sometimes too. But for me, I'm trying to make sure that everybody has kind of a landing zone and somewhere to start if they don't already have a start, or maybe could pop up a question and have somebody answer it, and they can that helps them on their tone journey, as I call it.
Yeah. A journey but we start and never end.
Yeah, absolutely. They're like, hey, here's my pedal board, it's finished, and everybody puts in quotations finished. Like, yeah, nobody's ever really done with this gas or tone chase, but I know some people have reached what I call tone nirvana. And we actually have one of our admins, Trevor Twig. I don't want to throw him under the bus, but he's he knows what he wants to play, and he feels like he's got the gear to do the job. And that's totally fine too. We welcome his content all the time. So that's there's people that have reached that tone nirvana, and they're totally fine with helping other guys. And I know some guys need to know things like MIDI and all the complex stuff. And then we have some ones that just really need the simple basics, like, hey, what are good patch cables? Just basic questions. So, but man, what's new with you? What you got there to show us on camera today?
Well, I was like, well, we're going to be on video, so I should have some fun things,
Nice.
But this is I don't even I'm trying to remember. I think this is like the 4th guitar I built. I think I'm at 5 now.
Oh, wow.
I originally designed this. I decided I have to kind of go back to explain what this guitar is. I essentially I've done my own tech work my whole life. I'm originally from northern Minnesota where there are no techs. So if you wanted to fix stuff, you had to figure out how to do it yourself. And I'm lucky enough to have a dad who, knew that stuff. He's a broadcast engineer. He's had a morning radio show at a mom and pop radio station that's been around for like 100 years.
Oh, wow.
And so he knew stuff. But anyway, to kind of make the long story short on what this is, I decided a few years ago that I wanted to do a lot more of this because I enjoy working on gear more than I enjoy schlepping a guitar amp to a stinky bar. and I've done plenty of that. But I wanted to come up with my own design, and I was trying to keep in mind things that that I would really want out of a guitar, because I've probably had 30 guitars in my lifetime. I don't even know if that's an accurate number, but it's got to be something like that. And my thing was, I wanted to have a neck heel that was carved, and I wanted to have a profile that was a certain shape, and all these things, and it culminated in what this basically is. This is actually a baritone version. This is a 26.5-inch scale, but it's chambered on both sides and solid down the center. I've made a few different versions of this guitar. The first prototype that I made actually has like an arm cut right here.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, so that solid body shape. I'm just gonna turn around and grab my new telly real quick, just to show kind of what the guys are talking about. So basically, you're fixing kind of this whole solid part where there's no heel, and it kind of hurts your forearm to play, especially for sit down players. Yeah.
Yeah, on this one I left it, just like a telly basically would be. But on the other two that I've made of this same design, they both have that arm cut on them. But yeah, and then like I said, the neck heel is carved so you can get up there a little bit easier. And
yeah,
I only used 3 screws. But this being a baritone and knowing it was going to have a lot of tension, I went for 4.
Yeah. Is that also a roasted neck? Like, tell me about the neck and stuff.
So this particular one is mahogany body, mahogany neck is Honduran mahogany, I believe.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I see the pores on it.
Natural finish.
Nice. So it's very warm, like I would say.
Yeah, and then I just went for a boring. It's not flame maple. It's just normal grade maple fretboard. It's like a straight 12-inch radius, and it's got fairly big frets on it. I like big wide frets. Like my favorite size to use is like 47-104, which is fairly big, but it's not like super wide jumbo like some of the old like Les Pauls and stuff like that.
Yeah. So they're not too tall and that kind of thing too.
Yeah, I find I still get, good intonation on my notes, and there's still a decent, crown on top. It's not like those real wide ones.
Yeah, where you got to like file the mess out of them to level everything.
Yeah. Yeah, and I just keep this tuned to like, standard baritone, so it's B to B.
Nice.
The pickups that I put in this thing are not particularly great. They're both Guitar Fetish pickups. Not to talk any smack on Guitar Fetish, but they're not real high output, and
so they pay the bill kind of thing.
Enough, when I usually build these, I don't use a telly bridge. It's that I wanted to build this guitar for myself because I really wanted to have a baritone around. And it was easier to build one than it was to go buy one for several hundred,
Yeah.
So and I happen to have a telly bridge on hand, so.
Okay. So what inspired you with the baritone? You like playing like rock lobster, or? You surf and that kind of thing, or you more machine head and play more of the metal? Like,
Man, that's a good question. There are a lot of musicians that I like to listen to across a lot of genres that all play baritones.
yeah,
I'm it's kind of weird. I guess what they would call an elder millennial because I was born in '86,
yeah.
and I really actually like gent. I know a lot of people talk smack on gent, but I really like it. And I am sort of particular about it, but like Periphery is one of my absolute
Oh yeah,
favorite bands on earth. And it's kind of funny. But I also grew up listening to lots of oldies. The radio station my dad works at is oldies, and so there's Dwayne Eddy and those guys. They were
oh
tuning
yeah.
their guitars down to play that stuff back then, and so it was just something that I've always wanted. And there was a Gretsch, one of the like electro jets or whatever, the
Yeah, with the baritone.
single cut thing.
Hmm.
And it's actually the shop where my shop is now. And I played that thing a few times, and I was like, man, I need a baritone.
There's a couple of guys on the group, and they absolutely love baritones. Like, they'll actually send me pictures. They're like, "Hey, man, Dan Electro just let out this baritone, and then this new Telecaster series that came out with Squire, they actually have a baritone telly that just came out too. So it seems like there's a high demand for baritones these days."
Yeah. If I didn't want this so much, I'd hang it on the wall and see if anybody wanted to buy it.
But yeah, we have let's see, before then I think it was like with Machine Head, you had like the Phil Demmel and the what was it, the Love Hate Epiphone was the other one. It was like a Flying V baritone that was also Rob Flynn's signature. And then there was, before then, was the Mike Mushock PRS. They made an SE model that was a baritone.
That's true, although some of the baritones I've seen out of PRS were actually 25.5-inch scale, which is standard scale for Fender.
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of interesting.
So where are you at, about 27 or 30, you said?
This one is 26.5, which is
Okay.
short. But that's what that Gretsch was, and I just really liked how it felt, and I didn't want to have a super long scale. I wanted to be able to, hop from my guitar onto it and not have it feel super foreign.
Yeah. So I understand that. But like, I listen to a lot of guys that play B2B. I could think of bands like probably not as well known, like Demon Hunter. They play B2B as well, and they're like one of my staples I listen to, like on my I would say background music while I'm working. And they even have an like a acoustic setter set up. But I noticed that Taylor, and I remember a Taylor Roadshow like 2017, 2018, they had an 8-string baritone. So the two middle strings had a tenor string to them each. And it was like the best of both worlds. It was like bass, guitar, and a 12-string all in one with that 8-string. And it was phenomenal. And a friend of mine just sent me a video with his, and he actually bought a Guild that was based off of that Taylor 8-string as well. I think they're running about $700 for an acoustic, but man, they sound deep.
Yeah, I bet. That's interesting. I'll have to check that out. It's so funny how you can be in the world of gear and so many things can still pass you by.
Yeah. And I see so many things. I'm like, ooh. And that's why I'm always sharing, like, on the page. I'm like, hey guys, check this out. Check this out. Check this out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure I'm annoying some people to death with that, or even the meme content, but but
I mean, Facebook is now meme world. That's what it is now.
Yeah, and I'm an entertainer by trade, so with me, I'm always trying to get somebody to laugh or cheer up their day, because that's kind of my thing.
Yeah, and there's plenty of the other side of that in the world that we don't need. So
yeah. So what's new with you other than building guitars? You got anything yet you're gassing for?
Man, I got to think about that for a second. My big thing is the band that I play in is starting to do some songs in drop C.
Ooh,
And so I have a PV Predator that I've had laying around that somebody had tightened the truss rod on it so far that they broke the nut off.
yeah.
And it was one of those ones where the adjuster wheel is down here.
Mm.
This is my regular Strat I play most of the time. This thing
Oh
is a
wow.
story in and of itself, um, but the it's got the stock pickups in it still, and they are they're boring. They're weak.
Yeah, they're dark.
They
Yeah.
don't do the chugs. I want the chugs. If I'm tuning
Yeah.
down to C, I got to get that
Gotta get that
snarl, you know.
that kill switch engage kind of, my curse kind of drop C.
Yeah, I just want that you know.
Yeah.
I always think of Stevie T with the pancake. Yeah.
But yeah, dude,
But
my
I
first
really want
guitar
some
was a
better pickups
Predator.
for that. Yeah.
Yeah. And that I remember that guitar that I had, and somebody had broke the trim system on it, and my parents found it in a pawn shop. It was literally my first electric guitar, and I put wooden blocks on both sides of the trim block just to make it a fixed bridge. So my first guitar was a broken bridge guitar, but I made it work, man. But I remember them pickups sounding like really awful because, I was already.
I'm not sure what year this one is. It might be newer because they've made PV Predators in various
Shapes and
places and different series and things throughout time. And they're not terrible pickups, but they could be better.
yeah. The one I had, you could smell maple syrup. Literally, like when you open the case, and it was like, "Oh, is that pancakes?" Like,
nice.
But I think it was a late '80s model. It was definitely a USA made one, and they had had the Strat body, but it was off by like 15%, so they can get away with it. So I had like the normal shape. It was painted gloss black with some scratches all over it. I didn't care. I just wanted to learn to play guitar. I was like 14 years old, so
just wanted to rock out.
Yeah, I wanted to play Metallica of all things on a single coil guitar.
That's funny. I was just listening to one of your other episodes the other day when I was painting a room, and I heard you talking about the Metallica influence. It's funny. I was around guys who liked Metallica when I was younger, but never really got into it as much. And now as an adult, I appreciate it so much more, but from a totally different perspective, I think.
Yeah, their spectrum is very wide now because they were all about the speed metal and very tight picking, and they were underground metal, and then Master Puppets came out and they blew up underground.
Yeah.
And then by the time Black Album, I remember growing up during that time, and guys were like, "Oh man, they sold out. They're with Bob Rock now, who did Motley Crue," and I'm like, "Dude, this stuff's awesome. They're on the radio." Like, I was like psyched about that when Black Album came out, but I did like their older stuff. But I know that, Cliff died and everything. Like, I was young enough to know who he was and knew all the members of the band because my uncle was like a hardcore Metallica fan, and he was so mad about the Black Album. And I'm like, why? And he was like, because it's radio rock now. And I'm like, I can't believe they're on the radio. But then they get to like load and reload, and I just call it heavy blues. But they did the down tuning and everything there too. But
yeah,
they still had the roots of it, and then they get to like Garage Inc. and then S&M and Death Magnetic, all that stuff.
Like I've never been a metal guy. I hung out with a bunch of friends when I was like early teen years who were all like skateboarders, so they were playing like Korn and Limp Bizkit and stuff, because this is like late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah, wearing Jinkos and all that.
Oh yeah. And I heard a lot of that stuff, but I was never really into it, and I definitely never tried to play it. I was always a blues guy. I did nothing but blues for years and years. I like Tomorrow by
Silverchair.
Silverchair is the first rock song I ever learned. But a few years ago, I started working in a screen printing place with the boss and the shop manager are the guitar players of a death metal band called Unmerciful,
Oh wow.
and they've world toured. But the shop
Yeah.
manager and I basically became like work husbands because we just ran the shop. We ended up running the shop together every day, and his like claim to fame is that he can turn anyone into a metalhead, and he did for sure. You know, by that time, like as far as I had gone in metal on purpose was like I had Pantera's Cowboys from Hell album in my car, and you know that was about as far as I went. And now I've seen Hypocrisy live, Flesh God Apocalypse. You
Oh
know,
yes.
I've seen all kinds of death metal shows, and it's crazy how my opinion has changed over the years, and it really just comes down to understanding that music because there's a lot of people
Yeah.
who see that from a very superficial level of like, oh, look at all these angry guys screaming and all that, and
Yeah.
when you
Dude,
really
it takes
get into
some
it,
raw talent to get the scream
oh,
vocal. And I'm not talking about like the hard, from hardcore to like death metal, like pig grunting or whatever you want to call it these days. But, it takes a lot of lungs, and your diaphragm has to be like muscular to even, to do a lot of that because, my former band, which I mean, it's kind of on hiatus, but when I was in 39 Lashes, we had a Christian rock band, and I was the background vocal that did like the screams in the background. And dude, I would have like a vein out the side of my neck, like trying to do this because I forced myself to do it out of necessity because that's kind of what our label wanted at the time, and we were working towards getting signed, touring, and that kind of thing. But life kind of happened. But I would just I would have to like psych myself up into it, and then like I was always like I was in my 20s, so I was a lot more limber, and I was like tossing guitars and that kind of thing, which is why I bought all the crappy guitars, because tossing guitars, you're gonna break something anyways. And I would just we'd do the rest, toss the guitar, get into the chorus of it, and I would just just let it go, man. Like, I took all my frustrations out on stage, and that's where I got, I got over stage fright by just doing that out of necessity. But, honestly, that's still why I have a love for cheap gear, because I mean, if you broke it, you just buy another one. But
yeah. And like now that I do tech work and stuff like that now, it's like there's a lot of really nice guitars in the world, and I get it if people got a whole bunch of money that they can go spend, but like a cheap guitar that's set up really well is just as good as any $3,000 guitar when you're on the road.
yeah,
None of the people in the audience care.
no, they actually care more if they can hear the lyrics.
Yeah.
And that you hear that more than anything. They're like, "Oh, you guys are loud." We think that's a compliment. They're like, "Oh, they appreciated loud music," and I realized it's like, "Oh, they didn't hear a word we sang."
Yeah. No, that actually reminds me. We did a it wasn't really a battle of the bands. I mean, it kind of was. It was for the local blues society to go down to Memphis to do the thing.
Somebody had to win.
And one of the judges' comments about our band was something about how they thought I was using too many effects. And knocked points off for that. And I was like, I used a Leslie rotary effect.
I love a good Leslie.
I'm sorry that was too much for you.
Yeah. It's kind of needed in blues, though. I mean, a Leslie kind of goes back to the old Hammond, and Stevie Ray used a Leslie.
Dude, I am all about that. The rotary, like,
yes,
rotary over chorus for me. I mean, chorus has its place too, but I love me a good rotary, and I think the Boss RT20. I've not heard enough people talk about that pedal.
Yeah, let's talk Leslie's, man. Yeah, because it was on my scope for a while before I got the Terraform, but yeah, I'm gonna let you roll with this. So the RT20, tell me about it, man.
Well, so like again, I was into blues for the longest time and loved Stevie and all that. And so when I found out, what that sound was and
Like Cold Shot.
oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I tried a few random things. I'm trying to remember. There was like a Dunlop pedal that looked like a wah, but it was actually either
The Roto vibe.
yeah, there you go.
It was red.
Yes.
Yes.
I had one of those for a while, and that was okay. And then I tried a few other random things. The Hughes and Kettner Rotosphere.
You had a Rotosphere?
I did not have one.
Oh,
When we were recording my first studio album when I was 16, 17, the studio that I was at, he had a bunch of good gear, and that was one of the things he had.
man. Oh, man. I lust over the Rotosphere. I'll tell you why. Black Hole Sun.
Oh, really?
I love that pedal just for that song.
Interesting. I don't think I knew that's what that was.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I just, I'd gotten over the years to like plug into a couple of Leslie's and see how awesome that is. And man,
Two speeds.
nothing like standing up next to a Leslie, just,
It's like a fourth dimension.
yeah, yeah. And so, yeah, so eventually, I'm just one of those guys that I go and watch YouTube videos and I watch reviews and all that stuff. And the RT20, when it first came out, I saw it and I was just
Had the
like,
purple lights that did like the opposite swirls.
yeah, I think one of them's blue and one of them's red. So when they swirl together, they look purple.
Yeah.
Because one is supposed to be the bass horn,
Mhm.
bass, and the other one's supposed to be the horn. And, they speed up and fall at different, speeds and all that. And, yeah, that pedal is amazing. It's got like, I almost have to look at a picture of it now. It's got like 4 different modes. You get like what a regular, Leslie cabinet would sound like, and then you've got another one where it's like that if you were playing it through a different cab or with a different mic. Then there's yet another one, and then the final one is actually a Univibe. But the great thing that I love about that pedal, it's one of their dual pedals. So one of them is on off, but the other one can be used to either pause it or if you tap it just as a speed. But it also has rate control knobs on it. So you could decide how fast you want it to get up to speed or go down to low speed when you do hit the button. And it had its own drive, so you can, give it its own
Push.
yeah, like a Hammond would have done, back in the day. But yeah, those are awesome pedals.
Yeah, I geek out over Leslie, man.
I don't think I'll ever be cool enough to be on Tone Mob. If I ever was asked that question, it'd be the Boss RT20 because I think
They get the favorite Boss pedal.
yeah.
Yeah. Dude, Blake shared my rig, dude. I was going nuts. I was dancing around the house. I was like, look. He was like, hey man, can I share this? I said, absolutely. Like,
yes, please.
I was like, tell your mom, tell everyone, like. Yeah. But dude, Leslie pedals, like that just I'm not sure if you know who PJ and the Beard is, but Jason Suter's in our group. He's called the Beard because he's the guy with the whole Santa beard and everything. And great guy, man, phenomenal player, blues oriented. Great guy to his church, playing on their praise team and everything. But he has a Rotosphere and a Neo Vent. Like they turned me on the Leslie pedals like this. And they have a whole series dedicated to that Leslie sound. And I recommend that playlist more than anything. When people talk about Leslie's, I was like, if you're shopping for a Leslie, these guys have done the homework. And they seriously have had every single one out there, even some discontinued units and everything. And I was kind of working for a Swiss Army knife, and I noticed that when the Terraform came out, it had a rotary setting. It's great, but I'm gonna tell you the best one that's out there right now for the money is the Neo Vent, and
I've heard of that one. I feel like I've seen that on like Doyle Bramhall's board, maybe.
That's exactly who. Yeah, that's what he's using now. DB2, man. Like the Archangels was gonna do 4 shows. They're still like they've been to like Anton's and everything else. They're still doing shows right now.
Yeah. They were originally just going to do a few, and then they decided to keep going. And of course, I don't have the money or time to drive to Texas or anywhere to go see them. Man, I don't know what it is, and this is just totally off the subject, but still related. All of my very favorite artists through all the time that I have loved music, I have never seen any of them. I've been to dozens and dozens and dozens of concerts, but like, well, okay, I guess the one exception would be Johnny Lang, but that's a story all in itself.
It's
Because
before Disney Channel Johnny Lang or after.
oh yes, this is way before Disney Channel. We saw him at Iron World in Chisholm, Minnesota, by accident when he was still Kid Johnny Lang in the Big Bang.
He was a youngin.
And literally, you and I would not be sitting here talking right now if it was not for that moment in my life, because that was like the biggest that was the biggest change in my life was going to see it, because I had already, I started playing guitar when I was 4, and I think when we accidentally saw him, I was like 9 or something like that, because he's only,
You're like, I want to do that.
he actually, what happened was he had a wireless, and back in those days he had the long blonde hair, and he played barefoot, and he walked out into the stands and was in the row in front of me, so we were basically eye level with each other, and he was like playing a solo, and it was like, that moment in Blues Brothers where the guy's like, I have seen the light. Like, that's what it was like for me. I was like,
Yeah.
that right there, that's what I want to do.
Yeah, man.
Anyway,
I've had a similar experience with that, but mine was seeing Kiss when they came back with the face paint, like 95, 96.
yeah.
And we had like kind of like near the front row, and Gene Simmons spit fire above my head, and I'm like, I want to do that. Like,
Yeah, and then you learn later there's no way you're probably gonna ever do
yeah,
that. But
I'm probably gonna get yelled at. And I'm like, after I learned the riffs, I'm like, Kiss sucks, but like, I still have a fondness for them a little
I'm
bit.
a huge Kiss fan. I always have been. I don't know what it is. I think sometimes that a lot of the guys, especially newer guys that are like into metal, that hate Kiss,
Yeah,
it's because they look at Kiss through the wrong lens.
like the gimmick band kind of lens.
Yeah, I mean, if you really go and listen to some albums, I mean, they wrote some good stuff. They really did.
Yeah, Kiss Alive, all the way up to what, Destroyer, that kind of thing. Like, that's the hardcore Kiss fans, man. Like, you don't hear them talking about Animal in the 80s, where non-face painted Kiss.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Dynasty.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
yeah, I was a young kid with their double platinum. I had the double platinum cassette, so I had both cassettes. And I remember some of my favorite songs being like Black Diamond and Cold Gin, and we're learning Strutter right now, which is hilarious. I was like, dude, I haven't heard Strutter since I was like a kid.
great song and great guitar solo. Really well crafted guitar solo.
Yeah, I didn't realize that it's just in a blues pentatonic. And I was like, dang, I knew how to play this all along.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Wheatley.
That part.
That's funny, man. Like, that's what I'm actually learning this week myself. But I guess that that covers our. I'm gonna check that box off for our influences. But you said blues, so Johnny Lang. Who's your other blues influence? I'm guessing Archangels.
Well, yeah. So because I was into blues for so long, it was a lot of different artists. But I mean, there were definitely main, influences.
Who's your favorite king?
I don't even know. I will say BB King is like the only person who died during my lifetime musician-wise that I actually cried about. That
Man,
hit me, because I did actually get to see BB live once in my life.
nice.
I saw John Hyatt, Tommy Castro, Buddy Guy, and BB King all at the same show. It was amazing.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know. I think if I really had to pick, I'd probably say Albert King.
I got you, man. Yeah, SRV
Just
influence too.
because Stevie was such an influence for me, and he's so much of a carbon copy in some ways.
Yeah, he's like a blend of Jimmy and Albert, and maybe a little bit of Clapton. That
Yeah.
early influence.
And the thing for me with Stevie is I always felt like he was the idealized version of all those things melted together. He played
Yes.
so cleanly that it wasn't just the licks, it was just that he did it just with so much cleanliness and so much attention to, time, being in time and stuff like that. I
Hmm.
mean, a lot of people love Jimi Hendrix. I mean, I love Jimi Hendrix too, but I mean, technically, Jimi Hendrix was kind of a sloppy player if you listen to him.
In a way, I think a lot of it was fighting the gear he had too, being left-handed, and there wasn't many left-handed available options. I mean, between the
Yeah.
V and the Strats, that's what he's most
And he
known
was also
for.
doing such weird stuff. I mean, he had
Yeah,
nobody else to pull from. He
dude,
was
he
doing
had
something weird. He had to figure it out.
yeah, he had every effects pedal out during his lifetime. So he was, I would say, the effects guru of the time.
Yeah. I'm sure you've asked this question before, but it's like I wonder what he'd have on his board, in 1995 or something.
I posted that one where he had the Zoom 505.
Yes, yes, yes.
I had to, man. That was my first pedal. So let's get into that. What I usually ask everybody, what was your first effects? Everybody knows my love of mine. So
Oh man. I feel like the first one I actually bought was probably a TS9
okay,
because once again Stevie.
yeah,
Um and then it was probably a wah, which I've always been a crybaby guy. I've had a lot of different wahs throughout the years. I've tried Vox, I've tried different crybabies. I had a Morley Power Wah for a while. Um And somebody needs to invent a pedal that has all of the bad features like taken out of all of them and just the goodness in
they
one.
say the full tone is the only one close to that. To be honest, because of the
Because I
hardware,
love the optical thing that the
hmm
Morley does, but having
the
the
step on.
switch off to the side is like the dumbest idea. Why would I want to have my foot on this working it and then have to take my foot off and go physically push a switch?
I used to say the Tremonti was probably the best of both worlds kind of thing, but honestly, I'm a break them all. I've broke every one I've had. I
Yeah.
cannot recommend a wah pedal anymore. I just like just make one and make it do the thing. Everybody, the way you do the thing is what makes the wah happen, anyways.
Yeah, yeah. What I do really like is a lot of the newer ones that have
Q switch or something.
the sweep switch on the side,
Mhm.
so you can like start darker on the scale and go, maybe midway, or you can turn it up and start midway and go really bright. That to me is one of the more important things. It makes it so much more of a Swiss Army knife, if you're using wah for different types of music.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you my trick. Whatever's the cheapest I can get used to get me by with the gig.
Yeah, yeah.
Because
Uh,
I'm just gonna break it. I'm gonna be honest. I either break the Dunlops with the switch in the front or the Vox. And the Morley ones, sometimes I miss the button and I look stupid making the wah and I'm not even on.
and they weigh a lot too. Like you think the Crybabies weigh a lot? I'm pretty sure the Morleys weigh even more.
Yeah. There is a newer one where they've improved a lot on the design and have the step on switch and that kind of thing. Like I was thinking more of the Tremonti or even the Bad Horsey kind of stuff. But honestly, they all do the thing. And, it's however you play your voodoo chili, as I call it.
Yeah, I have the worst version of that ever is on my first album.
Oh wow. We cover that as well, and I'm sure I'm not exactly polished for it, but the Vox is really close enough to that sound where you can get the chucka in it.
Yeah, and I think looking back, I mean, isn't the Vox what they had at the time? I think.
Both Stevie and Jimmy used.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think I don't remember I listened to like only guitar podcasts, I swear. That and Morbid.
Yeah.
But um I heard somebody say on one the other day that they were pretty sure that the one that Stevie had actually came from Jimmy. And actually, I want to say maybe his brother had it first, and then he got it from his brother.
Oh, Jimmy, yeah.
Yeah, but
Honestly, I don't know, dude. Like, and I'm not saying there's myths to a lot of gear related things, but it's pretty cool to have like your hero like hand you down something, you know.
oh yeah,
Yeah, I get pretty excited about that. Dude, I get excited with just our friends in our group when they share stuff, and that's why I'm always sharing stuff because I'm like, dude, check this out. Like, I'm genuinely excited to do that. Like, I'm not making that up. Like, I love seeing new stuff and what everybody's working on.
yeah, and it's there's just man, there's so many options out there. It's like you can do whatever you want, whatever you want.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, you want a reverb? Okay, here's a list of 297 different reverb pedals that have been made since 1984. It's like, it's just nuts.
Don't get me started on fuzz.
And my stuff is pretty simple these days. Man, I've talked about it in the group before. I mention this like whenever I'm talking to anybody about gear, but I have the Seymour Duncan Dark Sun, which is Mark Holcomb from Periphery signature. Yeah. It's the best pedal I've ever had. And I've had a lot of pedals. It's
a tight overdrive.
If you need a modulation, it exists if you can figure out how to do it.
Yeah.
It's insane. The delay and the reverb, you can change whether or not it's the delay first and the reverb second, or the reverb first and the delay second. You can change the mix between the two. High pass filter, low pass filter, how much drive is going into it, how much saturation. It's just nuts. You can get Leslie sounds, you can get chorus sounds, flanger sounds. Like it's crazy.
It's a Swiss Army knife. That's cool, man.
I love it. I've been trying to like build my presets in order so I don't have to be like, oh, I'm on number 3 and I need number 39 and like hit my MIDI switcher until I get to 39.
Yeah. I toe tweak a lot. That's kind of my cheat code to it. Instead of fumbling presets, is like, oh, I need that rate knob up, kick it over like wide open.
Yeah.
But so I'm gonna have to ask you, you're talking about, some of your favorite pedals. You got like favorite amps to go along with that, or?
Oh man. Once again, I've had lots of amps throughout the years, but my favorite one that I have ever had, that I've ever played through, was a JTM 45 clone that I built. It was either a Mojo Tone or Tube Depot kit. I forget. I think it was a Tube Depot kit. Okay. And I did some mods to it. I used
change like the variac or something, or how it saturates, or
I used gosh darn it. They're like 6L6s, but they handle even more power.
It's definitely not V6 because that's lower, but
yeah, no, it was
EL34 swap maybe?
Yeah, gosh darn it. You'd think a guy who has tubes tattooed on his arm would remember his tube numbers.
Well, it's a tube shortage, so I can't really.
Oh man, that's a whole other topic.
Yeah, it's the toilet paper of the guitar world right now.
Yeah. I put a Metro Zero Loss effects loop in it.
Oh wow!
And I also did a solid state rectifier.
Oh okay.
Which is that's like a whole discussion in and of itself. Some people.
Yeah, because I'm a SAG player. I like the SAG, and I know guys like the really tight overdrives. They don't want that.
Yeah, it's funny. My buddy, that plays in Unmerciful, they play Mesa dual Rex.
Yep, SAG.
It's like the death metal standard these days, and they're great. But I was talking to. He's not a gearhead at all. He has an Iron Bird that I put some Fishman Fluence pickups in for him.
He's probably happy.
It's funny, they use grid slammers, which is another Mesa pedal, to hit the front end of their amps.
So they're crushing the front end, man.
Yeah. And I've tried explaining to him before that more gain does not equal better sound, but
more fizz.
those guys they just like to walk up to the amp and do this, and I'm like, that's not how you do it. But yeah, man, totally lost track of where I was even going with that thought process. It just went down the tube.
Yeah, you were talking about solid state rectifiers. So,
Yeah.
what was your purpose on it?
Man, I just it's one less component to fail. For one thing, a rectifier tube, shorts out or goes bad, you're done for until you get another one.
Yeah, it takes to the power section.
Yeah, and you already have all the other, tubes in there. Why add another one?
I need 11 tubes.
And I played either way, and I just found that I liked what I could do with the preamp and with my pedals more, basically. It just I don't know, it's a little tighter is really all I can sort of put it down to.
Yeah, the dual rec was like my first tube amp experience, and that's because all my favorite bands had like the rectifier. I was like, what is a rectifier? And I googled it, and I'm like, oh, Mesa Boogie. Never heard of Mesa Boogie, like, because they were such a boutique amp.
Yeah, up until at least the early 2000s, I would say.
Yeah, so I actually got mine like 2005. So I had like that messed up second channel that everybody complained about. They don't talk about that, but I actually sent it in for service, and they ended up, fixing it and everything. So props to Meza for doing that. Like I have mad respect for them and their warranty, for that reason. It was an arm and a leg to ship back to like California, but to me it was worth it. It was included in the price of the amp, honestly, but they had that whole 5-year warranty thing and took care of it. So I couldn't even argue with them. And I'm like, dude, I love this amp, and forever still my favorite amp. And that's just because of my first love for that thing in the first place. But because I'm a SAG player, I would not play more than 4 on volume. It was just deafening. Like even standing next to it, it was such a roar. There was no reverb or anything. I plugged straight in the amp, and that was it, man. Oh, they're in a wah pedal. Like when I played that amp, I didn't even believe in pedals, to be honest with you, because I always broke a wah, and I'm like, pedals suck. They're gonna break. And so the thing is like I didn't realize textures until after I would say mature into my 30s, and I'm like, what is that sound? And come to find out, it was like a Leslie or a chorus or a delay. And delay really got my foot wet in the effects. But what is your take on like boutique versus standard equipment kind of thing? Like,
man, that's one of those slippery slope kind of deals. Like, on the one hand, I see the quality of boutique stuff, and I think that that's really important. Although, to be fair, these days, even the quality of the stuff coming out of, overseas is way better now than it was 20 years ago. The technology has just gotten better, that even the cheap stuff is better quality. The components are just made better now than they were back then because the technology's just gotten better. But, there's like the law of diminishing returns. It's like the more money you spend, the less you're going to get for your money. There comes a point where you're paying for things that aren't going to make it any better. They're just not.
Well, there's some of that, but then there's also some of the side where you have your tone chasers. There's guys that obsess over fuzz, and I'm not making fun of these guys, but they get their first taste where like, oh, I love a fuzz face, and then they progress, and here's a super fuzz, here's a tone bender, which is like the most finicky circuit there is. But it takes an art and a level of engineering that's just beyond my capacity to even keep up with, because they're measuring values that are so insignificant to the common player, but they really matter to get it like close. And then there's guys that are like, I gotta have a zonk because like that's the sound, like but they're gonna pay that price for that sound too. But for me, it's more or less you're supporting a guy that has a small business and has a passion and a love for making things, to replicate their favorite setting or their favorite sounds and everything, which I appreciate that a lot. but I do get like being on the road and breaking something. And you're like, crap, I'm screwed out of that. So it's always nice to have a backup. But like there's a MXR or a DoD or somebody has like something that's like close to it. You can get you by for that 1 gig, and then when you get back in the studio, you can do your thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and now we're getting to the point where so many people are starting to use Kempers and Helixes and stuff like that, and that stuff is starting to get so good in terms of the effects that are on board. I think especially if you're touring and stuff like that, it just makes more sense to me to have all that stuff. It depends what kind of player you are. There's so many different factors. I like having everything in front of me because I can decide. Because there might be one night I play a song and I think it needs to have fuzz on the solo, and there might be a night I play the song that it needs to have my clone on the solo.
That's called player's choice, man. So yeah. But I was originally trying to get into the whole tour scene, and I realized that they want everything MIDI controlled. They want to set up the stage. They don't have time for people to pull up amps on stage and take them down. So, everything was in a rack. Light show, DMX, everything was mapped. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. So I had to leave it in the engineer's hands. And you had to kind of build a level of trust, or like they got it. And all I had was my foot switcher. So if I ever missed a switch, I would have looked stupid with the clean channel when it was supposed to be, wide open. Here's the chorus kind of thing. So when the dynamics played in, it was all me. And it was just like plink, plink, plink. Oops. So I developed a thing that's kind of commonplace in, kind of the metal and hard rock is the shotgun. That was always my channel test before I went to the chorus. So that was my biggest thing is I would do that, do the chucka, and then we would do that rest. I would either toss or something, and then we did the chorus. Like I always tried to make sure I put that in the song so I didn't mess it up. But a lot of people thought that, that sounds cool. But I did it for a survival technique that I didn't want to look stupid trying to play my clean channel during the chorus,
For some reason that you ever watch Everybody Loves Raymond?
Oh yeah.
There's an episode where they try to figure out why Robert touches the spoon to his chin before he eats his food.
Yeah, Brad Garrett.
Because his mom did it when he was a baby to get it. He did it to get attention, and she did it off his chin. Yeah, just reminded me of that.
Yeah. So I mean, there's stuff that I did that it was. I did it for the cool factor, but for me, it was a moment of sanity that I knew that it worked, and I relied on standard equipment and boutique at the same time. And I just tell everybody I use everything, and it's a matter of subjectivity, I would say.
It's what works for you for sure. And if you have $5,000 to go spend on a PRS, have a good time with that. I build guitars that are, over $2,000. So I feel like, there's worth in the craftsmanship that goes into building a guitar,
oh man,
in that way. But it almost amazes me more when the big companies' fancy guitars cost more, because I always think to myself, even at the highest levels of these factories, their necks and their bodies are still, primarily being made with CNC machines and all that stuff. And and of course they're all finished by hand and all that, to
the purest of like
the whole thing.
But a CNC, you're taking the heart and soul out of the building process.
Which I'm not one of those people at all. But it's one of those things of like, why is this guitar $8,000? The wood that you used to make this was not that much more expensive than the wood you used to make your $2,000 model, and you were probably using the same machines to put it together. And
the Parker Fly was the first one that I knew that was a CNC built guitar, and I was like, "Oh, that is incredible!" Because I finally got to hold one in a Guitar Center, and I'm like, "This thing weighs nothing." And then I'm like, oh man, the headstock. Oh man, this I was pointing out all the stuff on it, and I was just geeking out over that. And everybody like, those things are ugly, and that killed it for everybody. But I love that guitar.
Kind of cool. I've never messed with one. I feel like I saw one once at one point, but I don't know if I ever even played it. Honestly,
dude, I remember seeing Killswitch Engage, and Adam D had the Parker at the time, and they were still running like a tube screamer through a dual rec before they went to like Splawns or something. And I remember seeing him just going stupid and taking a bottle and playing slide guitar upside down with that Parker. Just being a total goober on stage. He didn't care. He was having the time of his life. That's what they do on stage, man. So like,
yeah. I always love the that reminds me of the Danny Gatton solo on Austin City Limits back in the day, where he put the towel over his fingers, or he'd put a beer on, and yeah.
But yeah, dude, like if you're not having fun, you're not doing it right.
If I can play a set and not screw up, I'm good. I'm happy with that. Like I'll dance around. I'll have fun for sure, but I don't do the antics. I think that I'm like, marginal enough at my job, as a musician. It's like I just want to play as good as I can,
So with getting down to that, do you have like the big spaceship board, or do you have more like a minimalist setup?
Man, so my board is my entire rig if you don't count a cab.
Mm-hmm.
So of all the amps that I've had over the years, which I've had a lot, I played through a more modern PV Bandit for a while. I played through a Pro Reverb for a while. I've had lots of different amps. I just got sick and tired of messing with them. I got sick and tired of getting to a gig and playing and finding out I got a microphonic tube, somewhere
Little
in the
thump
amp section. Yeah. And just carrying heavy amps. And I have not been kind to my body over the years. I used to four-wheel all the time when I was younger. I've been working on mechanic stuff since I was in diapers. So my back is not, what it could be for.
But you're like a serious gearhead, like even turning wrench gearhead too.
Yeah, all of it. If I'm working with my hands, I'm into it. But I just got to a point where I didn't want to have a big heavy rig anymore, and there'll be times where my friend Ellie, who I was in a band with for about 8 years here in Topeka, we released one album together. She will still call me sometimes and say, "Hey, so and so asked if I wanted to do this show. Do you want to come play guitar?" Which she's one of the few people I will just always say yes to
and sit in,
because we just have so much fun playing together.
I love those kind of gigs, man. Because
we opened at a fairly big venue for the Boxmasters. Are you familiar with them?
Not really. I think I've seen you post it.
Billy Bob Thornton is their singer.
Yeah,
which he hates when people talk about him and anyway.
You ever seen Bad Santa?
For them, and we, I was playing a PV Classic 212 at the time. This was not that long ago. It was just last year. And so I brought all my gear and set up and we did all that stuff. And it was at that gig that I decided I don't want to move a heavy amp anymore. I'm done with this. There's better things on the market. And I somehow managed to find out about the Hughes and Kettner Amp Man.
Mm-hmm.
And what I really like about them is there is zero digital signal processing on them. So they're an all analog. They say they're 2-channel, but they're actually more like 4-channel amplifiers. And into a 4-ohm load, they're 50 watts out. And it's like a real 50 watts.
Oh.
You plug it into a 212 and it is like, you would never believe that a pedal that's, 4 switches wide could possibly get that loud.
Yeah, this is only 5 watts.
I've seen those before, but I've never played with one.
Yeah, this is the EHX 5mm. This was the lowest rating one. They have a 22 caliber and a 44 Magnum. So that tells you the watts. But the reason why I put the chicken head knob on it, because this was my effects loop, I needed to match my Hot Rod Deluxe. But I'm now using the Tiny Terror. That's what replaced this. This gave me one more spot on my pedal board for another pedal, is what it did. So
that's important.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I have that mounted on my board now. It has an effects loop. Like I said, it's basically like a 4-channel amp. My number one main thing, because I play so many different styles of music with different people, even within the band that I actually play in now, um, we we have stuff that's like blues, and we have stuff that's like drop C, hard rock, genty. It's we're all over the board because this
Yeah.
band is for fun. We write the music that we like. We release it on all the streaming platforms, and whatever happens
Nice.
happens.
All right. Yeah, tell me more about that. Plug away, man. Let me know where can we find all your information here, Ryan?
So the band that I play in is called Plastic Windows. Um, and a teenager on illicit drugs came up with the name of that band. No, I actually I had a YouTube like not really a podcast. It was like an interview, and we'd have bands come down to this basement, and we would shoot them playing live and interview them and all that stuff. And my buddy Zach, who is now the singer of Plastic Windows, I met him then and joined the band a very short time after, actually on drums, and drummed for the band for like 3 years. And but yeah, if you want to check us out, we're on all of the streaming places.
All right.
Facebook. We're not famous at all. We write music that we love. We have practice almost without fail every Sunday, and we just have fun writing music together. And one of the guys in the band brings a pizza from work, so we cook a pizza at practice every Sunday.
Nice.
And if you want to check out the guitars that I build, Verthein Guitar Works is on Facebook. I actually have a website. It's just vertheinguitarworks.com. I work out of a shop here in Topeka that's called Top City Music. He's a full Fender dealer.
Why have I heard of Top City? Is that where did they carry LRC there at one point, or no? I'm trying to think of another shop then, but I think there was one in.
Yeah. I mean, as far as the Top City thing goes, a lot of people refer to Topeka as Top City. Most of us who live here who are cynical don't like calling it that, but
Okay.
but yeah, it's a pretty cool shop. He focuses a lot on lessons. They have a whole bunch of teachers there, and lots of rooms.
Okay.
And they do a kind of like a School of Rock thing where they'll take a bunch of the kids that have been taking
Oh,
lessons.
so they'll have like cadets, and then at the end of it, they'll do a mini concert and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Jack
It
Black
hasn't
shows
happened
up.
for a few years for the same reason everything hasn't happened for the past few years.
Yeah, I can understand.
But yeah, it's been really fun. The guy that owns it I've known for a really long time, and we had talked about me moving into a shop space there and doing this full time. And at the
Nice.
beginning of this year, I just I was done screen printing. My body was done screen printing. I just didn't want to do it anymore. And I'd been doing so much of this stuff that I was like, you know what? I'm going to be poor for a while, but I'm going to go do what I want to be doing. And,
Be your own boss.
you know, I've said a million times to a million different people, you can spend the same amount of time doing things you do want to do or don't want to do, and you'll probably have the same amount of success in either one if you put in the same amount of work.
Yeah.
And so I'm just working to do stuff. I'm trying to build good guitars. I have 3 customs hanging in the shop right now that people can go check out. And really, when I build customs, it's like, yeah, I'd love to sell the guitars, but I would love for people to come into the shop and be like, I really like this one, but could you build me one that had this and this and this? And that way
Yeah.
I can, do that. But I've done a bunch of full recaps on some tube amps lately, and
Oh, nice.
I never get sick of smelling solder.
So you be huffing the lead there, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's always nice to have a nice vent fan to get that away from you. But I always feel like I'm burning my eyes when I'm soldering. So
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I try to be careful about that, but funny enough, the room that I'm in now has almost no ventilation. So
Oh no.
At some
Yeah,
point, I
see,
need to get my filter fan in there.
yeah, I see a lot of the guys, builders and stuff, and they just their fingers are either blackened or grayed from from all that. Props to them. I mean, you gotta have some tough hands to do that all day. But
I also use fairly small solder, so I feel like, I mean, yeah, it still smokes because solder always will, but I use fairly small solder to do what I need to do, and I feel like that keeps it a little cleaner, a little less smoky, you know.
if it smells like chicken, you're holding it wrong.
Yeah, yeah.
That's fun, man. Ryan, it's always nice to chat with you. I know you've been on the group helping us out and mentoring some of the guys with their gear and their tone journey. So, you got any good advice for the TSP guys here?
Oh man, I mean, nothing is off limits, I guess. You know, just try things. I've been in so many different bands throughout the years, and I've played through so many different pedals and watched so many hours of gear. And you know, I made a post a while back just talking about how I feel like I would be a good resource for people, just because I feel like I've done a good job of learning the rules over the years. You know, there was a point in my life where I was gigging every weekend for several years. I mean, I've really done quite a lot of playing out, and you know, being able to tech and do stuff for other people helps me be better for myself. But man, clean your guitars, you know, number one. There's no such thing as your finger goo does not give your guitar special mojo. Man, I meet people who are like, man, I've never cleaned this thing. And I'm like, you definitely have never cleaned this thing. You
Yeah.
are correct.
Yeah.
And that's why it sounds like a dirty finger.
Yeah. It darkens the tone actually, but
Yeah,
I specifically kept an acoustic guitar that I never changed strings on just for my songwriting, because if it sounded good on it and it was crappy, if it sounded good on it, whatever I amplified or played on decent gear, it was just phenomenal. So
yeah, yeah.
but
Yeah, and other than that, you know, I mean, there's so many things you can say, but you know, I see a lot of people, including guys in my own band, who use like the one spots and the daisy chains.
oh yeah.
Stop doing that.
Yeah. It really depends on the application. There's camps on both sides. You know, if it's a fuzz, it's low milliamp and that kind of thing. That kind of makes sense. But you're also sharing
And if you
ground.
only have a couple and you don't have
Yeah.
digital signal processing, it's not so bad.
Yeah.
I found where those are really bad is for anything that's digital or anything that's like delays and stuff like that.
Or if the whole band's running off the same drop chord.
Yeah, which which if you're in a band and you're going to be trying to play out live, that is going to happen to you.
That is definitely going to happen. And I just bought a Furman just to help the guys with this. But oh, you said clean guitars? I got this little Music Nomad. You were talking about Tone Mob. I think they're actually sponsored by Music Nomad. Is it them or Guitar Knobs?
Guitar Geeks or
Guitar Geeks, yeah.
I listen to
Guitar Nerds.
Yeah, Guitar
Joe
Nerd,
Branton, yeah. But
and you know what's actually really funny is Music Nomad likes my Instagram posts all the time, and all I'm saying is, they need to slide into my DMs.
But
I would
literally,
love
it's to do this real quick. But you could do the strings and all that. But I don't like all the pick dust.
Yeah,
And it's got that nice little brush. This is for your pedals. So the nice little makeup brush is to clean your pedals too.
I mean, this guitar looks like crap, but notice that it's clean.
Yeah, you can see the perloid in that. Yeah.
I've had this guitar since I was 9 years old, something like
Wow.
that. It's got a Mexican. Oh my gosh!
Oop.
I'm just gonna throw the microphone across the room.
Yeah.
Mexican fender neck, a
Sorry, guys. That clipped.
plywood Squire body on it.
That's a real pawn shop set up there.
It's got a humbucker that I pulled out of an import Gretsch. But I tell you what, I would bring this guitar to absolutely any gig playing any kind of music and be fully confident that it could do the job. It plays so much better than it should.
Yeah.
And, I mean, if
You're
you
probably
tried
used
to
to that
sell
neck.
this to a pawn shop, you'd probably have to give them money to take it from you. but it's set up really well and plays great. And
I hear you, man.
it's like I was saying earlier, you don't have to buy expensive gear, you know. I think a lot of guys try to chase playing good by buying good gear, and good gear is nice to have, but it's not going to make you play any better.
Yeah, I guess use what inspires you, and I pick up everything now because I love learning. That's kind of my thing.
Yeah.
But dude, this has been fun. I know we've kind of been over an hour by now, but just want to.
I take after my dad.
That's fine, man. Hey, doing a radio show, that takes a lot of guts, man. Like, you got to come up with the stuff to even talk about and then be able to respond so quickly to things. I'm learning that myself doing this podcast.
Mhm.
But speaking of this podcast, got some few things to shout out here about the signal path. Ryan's also included here. You can ask us anything. It's a gear related, I would say, group, but it's really about the mentorship and the camaraderie and not just a brotherhood, but that we're able to help each other find our tone journey. There's a YouTube channel that I run that all of our challenges go on. You can find Ryan and I Instagram, Facebook, ask us anything. I do have a patron to help offset the hosting costs that I'm now doing for the podcast. So if you guys want to be our first patron, let me know. I'll make sure you'll get shout out to every single episode being our very first. So if you guys want to excuse my language, but pop that cherry and be the first, let me know. I would love to have you guys as the first patron. And Ryan, dude, this has been fun. If you got anything to shout out, go ahead, man.
Oh man, I never know what to say, like he said, if anybody ever needs anything, in the group, I'm definitely there to help. I saw a guy the other day talking about how he had something broken in his pedal, and I was like, you could send it to me, I'll fix it. So, if you're anywhere in the central United States and you have some stuff that needs fixed and you don't have anybody near you can send it to me. Yeah, just I guess from my perspective, go check out Plastic Windows and get past our weird name and try to enjoy some of our weird music.
Nice. Thanks, Ryan. It was a blast, man. So I want to say goodbye to everyone at TSP, and you guys have a wonderful and great week. All right, bye, guys. See you later.
Bye.
See ya.